and welcome to another Wedding Wednesday. I'm Jane Corley with PicVisions Media Arts and Photography. Thanks for joining me. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, ring the bell so you don't miss any new videos that are uploaded every week. If you learned something new, make sure to like this video. Let's get started. Today's tutorial is wedding budget. Now, I know the wedding budget is kind of a daunting thing to talk about, but we're going to break it down. We're going to break it down for some really great tips and tricks of how to cut where you can cut and sort of a potential for the percentage of where you should allocate your funds. Let's get started. First things first with your budget. You need to find out how much you are willing to put into your wedding budget pot with your fiancé to contribute to your wedding expenses. You also need to be mindful of if you have any additional contributors to your wedding budget. So if your parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whomever may be contributing to your wedding budget, make sure to have that conversation. Not just a, hey, around about sort of thing, but we need to real talk. What is your number? Now, if you don't have a ceiling, congratulations, good for you. But most of us do. Most of us have a budget. Most of us have, okay, this is what we're willing to do, and this is what they're willing to do. Let's put it all into a pot, and if we need to save, you can make plans to save. Traditionally, weddings these days, it's going to be about $30,000 when you add it all up. All the parties, all the ceremonies, attire, all that stuff. But there are ways that you can cut costs. There are things that you can be mindful of during your planning process that will save you a few dollars and cents here and there that will add up at the end of your engagement. The first way to make money to save for your wedding is to be mindful about saving money for your wedding. If you and your fiancé can put back 10 to 20% of your monthly income, just have an envelope in a safe or in a top dresser drawer or something where each of you maybe $5, $10 a week put into that envelope. It really adds up. The second thing to consider when you're talking about your budget is to consider your guest count. It should make sense. The more guests you have, the more people you have to feed, the bigger space you have to have, more favors, more invitations, all of that stuff adds up. It may seem like, okay, well, I can have an extra 2 or 3 people, but 2 or 3 people at $15 to $30 per person for your event it's going to add up. It's going to add up. So just be mindful, your guest count is important when you're considering your budget. The next thing to consider is your location. If you're getting married someplace that's a tourist attraction, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, Denver, any of those really just very popular places to go and visit, those are going to be more expensive places to get married. The cost of living, keep that in mind of the locations you're getting married in. The food may be a little bit more expensive there. The transportation costs will be a little bit more expensive there. Rental costs will be a little bit more expensive there. So just be mindful of the location, and if you can get married someplace that might be just on the outskirts of those areas, near New York, those sort of ideas, that will cut dramatically onto your budget. The next thing to consider when we're talking about your budget is the date and time. If you get married on a Friday or a Saturday, it's going to be significantly more expensive than if you get married on a Sunday. And that's even going to be more expensive if you get married than if you get married on a Wednesday. If you are flexible for the date and time of the week, time of the day that you can get married, then make those adjustments. Next thing to consider is the style of your wedding. Do you want a more formal affair? Are you good with a cocktail sort of theme? Are you more of a casual? If you have a more classy event, all of the parts of your wedding, the meal, the music and entertainment, the vibe and decor of your wedding, that all needs to be stepped up to that level. And that can bring a more intense price tag. Now, something I'll add here is be mindful of traditionally how funds are allocated, how funds are dispersed throughout your wedding. Your wedding reception is going to be 45 to 50% of your wedding budget. Your attire for your wedding is going to be somewhere between 8 and 10% of your wedding budget. The ceremony for your wedding should be 2 to 3% of your wedding budget. That includes officiant costs, decor, any special sand or candles or any sort of ceremony embellishments that you're going to be having, about 2 to 3% of your wedding budget. Your flowers should be between 8 and 10% of your wedding budget. Your entertainment for your ceremony as well as your reception should be between 8 and 10% collective. Your photographer and videographer budget should be between 10 and 12%. Your paper goods like your RSVPs, your stationery, all that sort of paper products you distribute to your guests should be about 2 or 3%. Your wedding rings, your wedding band, your new husband's wedding band, that should be also between 2 and 3%. Parking, between 2 and 3%. So if you have to pay for parking associates or if you need to make extra signage for your parking, consider that to be about 2 or 3% of your wedding budget. The gifts that you distribute to maybe your parents or people who throw parties, or just the gifts that you give to the people who help out with your wedding, keep that around 2 or 3%. This will bring me to my next budget percentage, which is your miscellaneous. Your miscellaneous fund should be about 8%. 8% of your budget should be held to the side until about the month of, because there's going to be a lot of things that just randomly pop up. There's no control, no preparation, no nothing. I guarantee you there is something that you will forget. There is something everyone involved in helping you plan your wedding will forget. You can even do 5%. 8% should be set aside for miscellaneous costs at the end of your engagement timeline. Now, all those percentages being said, if you can spend maybe 2 or 3 percentages less in certain places, you can reallocate those funds to another portion of your budget. Things like paper goods. If you can go to a paper product distributor in your area, I'm sure that you know of places that will do printing for you. Research those local businesses and see if you can get the printing cost a little lower. Yes, you may not have gold lining on the inside of your invitations. You may not have tissue paper on your RSVPs. But ladies, gentlemen, if you're okay with that, don't put that stuff in your invitation. That will save you $100, $150, and you may want that $100 or $150 later on. You may want to have some expensive champagne at your wedding for your toast. Just make those sacrifices early of things that don't really all that much matter so that you can make those extra embellishments on your special day that much more special. Another few adjustments that you can make during your wedding planning time is to make adjustments with your fiancé. If you're the type of people who go out every Friday night for a date night, that's awesome. But practice being married and have a date night at home. I know that sounds kind of lame, but me and my husband, we love cooking together. We love sitting on the couch and streaming movies rather than going out to movies. If you can make those small adjustments and have a bunch of free date nights, those free date nights of $70 to $100 that you'd normally spend in a restaurant or going to see a movie or just going out, those will add up. My next tip for keeping your budget under control is to keep track. Some of you may have already seen my wedding binder video, but make sure to keep it right in front of you on a wedding binder, but also make sure to keep a spreadsheet, an electronic version of your budget of what's paid, what's not paid, what's left to be paid, who paid what, just as much information on your budget spreadsheet as possible. This may include vendor names, vendor addresses, so that if you need to write a check, you'll have it right there, and how much still needs to be paid. Also in this spreadsheet, do include if someone else is paying for that portion and what that timeline is. If you're able to give that contributor that sort of information, then you won't have to beg and plead for them to send you a check so you can send it to people, or hey, did you do this, or did you write that check yet, or did you send it in, or it was lost in the mail, or what happened. Like, just cut out all the nonsense, cut out all the variables so that you don't have to make adjustments at the last minute, so that everything can be planned and scheduled. This is why I suggested in my previous video that you also have a calendar and a notebook so that you have a papered timeline. It allows you to look at it all in front of your face and say, okay, I need to prepare for this month. This month, I need to pay this on this date, I need to pay this deposit on that date, and I need to make sure that I allocate this amount for so-and-so's budget. Just be mindful of your month-to-month payments and make sure that you are ready and prepared and talking to your contributors as well as your fiancé about when those debts need to be paid so that you're not waiting until the last minute to get everything paid off. The next thing to consider with your budget is to avoid hidden costs. Hidden costs are things like overtime, service fees. Trials are not necessarily free. And like I said previously, don't forget the hidden items such as stamps, marriage license, tips, all those hidden fees that you may not be aware of, and then all of a sudden you have to pay for this. Ask your vendors for any service fees. Make sure to add those onto your list of things to be paid. The next thing to consider when we talk about your budget is gratuity. Not every vendor requires gratuity, so do make sure to do your research. Some of the top items that you can make adjustments with to make your cost a little bit lower where you can are transportation. If you can afford to have a Lincoln Town car or a limo or some sort of classic car take you away from your wedding, more power to you. More power to you. But if your friends and loved ones can deck out your Jeep Wrangler with way too many embellishments like they did for ours, do it. Cut down cost on your transportation. The next item is going to be your menu. If you can have a 5-6 course meal for your guests, do it. But you don't have to have a 5-6 course meal. If you're okay with having a buffet, it's way cheaper to have a buffet or serving stations where guests go and serve themselves rather than having a sit down and serviced meal. Make adjustments to your menu. If you want to have filet mignon, that's fine. Have filet mignon. If you want to have some bomb teriyaki salmon or a chicken marsala, those are going to be cheaper than having a filet mignon. So make adjustments where you can. Also, with your menu, be mindful of what's in season. We got married in May, so we had the most amazing fresh vegetables that were grilled, and they were so good. But they cost less than things that were potentially not in season. So just be mindful of what season you're getting married in and things that you can make cheaper rather than buying them because they're specialty items depending on the season. The next way that you can make adjustments to your budget and save a little money is by doing your own flowers. Now, our wedding was a little bit larger, and I may have bit off a little bit more than we can chew. I am so grateful for the ladies and gentlemen who helped me for my wedding. Just shout out to all of y'all, are amazing. Do your own flowers if you can. Buy them in bulk from a local florist or from a Sam's or a Costco or just a department supercenter like a grocery store. They get fresh flowers, and you can coordinate with them to get more bulk flowers the week of your wedding. Just go pick them up. Or some of these places actually do arrangements, and you can at least have them do your bouquets and put together your own boutonnieres, and it'll save you a couple $100 doing it that way. Now for your ceremony and reception flowers, sometimes just making a bunch of bundles for whoever is helping you set up, throw on the tables right quick, that's going to save you hundreds of dollars. So be mindful of cutting your flower costs. Now the last item on our budget saving list is the resale value of your wedding items. Now, we did a lot of DIY for our wedding, but there was a lot of that DIY that was I had to order certain things online because ordering it in store was a couple dollars more expensive. If you purchase items and hold the integrity value of those items, you will be able to resell them. I'm not just talking about a wedding dress. I'm talking about your table numbers. I'm talking about your centerpiece items. I'm talking about your signage. All of those items have resale value. There's other women, men getting married, parents, loved ones of those people getting married that would love to rebuy those items at a discounted rate because they're used rather than new. So be mindful of the resale value of all of your wedding goods. So I hope this video was helpful of how to manage your wedding budget. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell so you can be notified every time a new video is uploaded. Leave down in the comments some other budget stresses. Let me know if I forgot anything. Let me know any thoughts on anything we talked about in this video. If you have any questions or concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Tune in next time for our next video when we talk about your wedding party and guest list. Looking forward to seeing you next time. I'm Jane Corley with Pick Visions. See you later.